Hello and welcome back to the Stronghold. I'm the Magi and welcome to Midweek Magic, where I want you to grow your collection by winning 2 free Rare or Better ICRs each and every week. This week's Midweek Magic is 60 card constructed using only cards available through Outlaws of Thunder Junction or older reprints of the same cards. But regardless of your motivation, we have strategies for you to help build a fun Outlaws of Thunder Junction deck with your small collection. But before we get into all of that, this whole Midweek Magic thing has become a bit of a tradition here at the Stronghold, and it all started with our crack team of researchers discovering that we were the only YouTube channel making consistent, proactive, and timely midweek Magic coverage. And here we are years later, and it appears that we're still the only ones out there doing it for the budget community. So be sure to subscribe to the Planeswalker Stronghold so that we can be here for you every chance we get. Now, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, right. The fact is, we are all limited by something, and whether that limiting factor for you is free-to-play resources, cold hard cash, or just time, the fact is we're all constrained by something. We are all budget players. And from time to time, we just want to put together a fun deck using those limited resources and not breaking the bank. And while doing that can be a little bit of a unique challenge, it is certainly far from impossible. It really doesn't matter if you're watching this video because you're trying to get through an only style midweek Magic event, or perhaps you have discovered a set mid-season or post-season. One of the least taxing ways to create a fun deck from any set is by using the resources that you gathered through playing limited events like Draft and Jump In and melding those into a fun, somewhat consistent even, constructed deck. The best results of these methods will often come from doing roughly 3 quick drafts or drafts in general that tend to play on the same archetypes or themes, then combining that somewhat large group of cards into a more refined constructed deck. However, if you are watching this because you're trying to get through that midweek Magic event and you are following the plan, you know, quick drafts haven't started yet, and premium drafts can be expensive, so that isn't always an option for us. Another option is to take a single draft event and an aligned jump-in play pack and combine those again into a more streamlined constructed deck. For those of us that have more established accounts and access to premium draft tokens that we bought at a discount, this can be a very good way of building a fun budget deck for these purposes. If you don't fit either of those, and I'm sure a lot of people won't, the focus of this video is actually going to be if you were to combine 3 aligned jump-in packs, things that reasonably overlap with a particular synergistic archetype and or colors. Oftentimes when it comes to these fun and budget accessible decks, the draft archetypes from a particular set do a lot of the heavy lifting for us. And that is also very true here with the Outlaws of Thunder Junction set. While I think all of these look fun to play and potentially viable as actual winning decks, I think the ones that are most accessible are the ally color pairs, primarily because those are directly supported by the jump-in packs for this set as well. Each season I do a video with recommendations for the best draft archetypes for budget players based on things like how well I think the archetype is going to play within the limited environment, how disputed I think it's going to be at the draft table, as well as how impactful that particular deck will be to your budget collection. This season, I recommended the green-white mounts deck, the red-green Power Matters deck, as well as the red-black Outlaws deck. Overall, the best thing we could be doing for our collection as far as jump in would be to get 2 or more of the dual color packs. But the more likely outcome is to get a copy of the 2 color and then 1 each of the combining colors. For instance, the red-black Outlaws pack with the red and then the black pack. When you do that for Outlaws, for instance, you pick up an additional 10 Outlaws Matters cards. So you end up with a highly synergistic deck that's going to be very fun to play. When we take a look at the red-green Power Matters deck, the green and red packs pick up a total of 5 additional 4 or greater power creatures plus a 6 power vehicle. So again, a lot of synergies. You're going to have a lot of payoffs on that and a lot of enablers. The green-white deck looks a little less impressive as you only pick up 1 additional mount within that combination. But the reality is the base green-white mount pack is so powerful in its own right, it doesn't really need a lot of help to be one of the higher power budget-friendly formats, archetypes within the format. I also found that if you happen to pick up the green-white mount pack, but you miss out on the green pack, but are able to get the white pack and the red pack, you still end up with a fairly good deck here, taking the mounts and vehicles from the red deck and the mana fixing from the white. Gives you a pretty playable deck, and in fact, I can pretty much assure you that's going to be one of the ones I play live on stream this time around. When we take a moment and look at the last 2 remaining allied pairs, we see even better potential synergies within the crimes and tempo mechanics. These 2, however, did not make my best recommendations for draft archetypes. I think the Demir Crimes is potentially too highly disputed at the draft table, and I have some fairly serious concerns about the Azorius tempo builds, converting to the rank or play queues as budget-friendly decks. Admittedly, though, these are both long-term concerns or draft-specific concerns and have a lot less impact on today's discussion. Once again, while I have focused on the ally pairs for this, particularly because of the overlap and synergy of the jump-in packets, particularly for those of you who maybe have a more established account and collection, have one of those premier draft tokens available to you, the enemy color pairs are really just as playable and potentially just as much fun. So your midweek magic or early deck experience for these fun decks could go in very different directions, and I encourage you to follow what is in your collection as opposed to spending additional resources to craft more cards to add in for these budget accessible fun decks. And if you're finding your deck a few cards short, of course there are a number of common level reprints, and you may have older and still playable copies hiding within your collection. Those, of course, being the white Take Up the Shield, green Snakeskin Veil, and in black you've got Skullduggery, Fake Your Own Death, and Corrupted Conviction. There are also a couple of jump-in packs this time around that are using non-Outlaws cards. I think there's 2 in particular. So if you are finding yourself 1 or 2 cards short, there are a number of good colorless options available within the set that can be used both as filler and or color fixing. The primary ones that come to my mind are Gold Pan, Mobile Homestead for the mounts deck is pretty reasonable. Wouldn't go so far as to call it good. Also, Silver Deputy if you have some of those deserts that you're trying to tutor up. Also, Bandit's Hall is a pretty decent way of assisting with color fixing for a small splash. Oasis Gardener, very similar, gives you a creature body and the ability to produce some off-color mana. Luxurious Locomotive, of course, works pretty well in the mounts/vehicles deck, as well as a source of potential fixing through the treasure tokens. And I think all of the colorless desert lands are pretty good in this set, with the exception of Sandstorm Verge. But do keep in mind that crafting these can really only improve your deck's mana. It's not really adding an additional card to your counts because it's probably just replacing a basic land. In particular, the Ranch is really nice if you're trying to run that 3-color mount deck. Arid Archway is just nice acceleration if you're trying to do that powers deck. And Mirage Mesa is pretty decent if you're trying to put together one of those enemy color pair decks and you need a little bit more fixing.
And hey, just in case you didn't catch all that, Matt would like you to know that the deck list that we discussed in this video is going to have a link down in the doobly-doo to take you over to Aetherhub, along with a link to any other alternative lists that you might wish to consider. He only asks that you give it a little thumbs up when you're over there checking out the deck list. And I plan on live playing this event on Wednesday at 11 a.m. over on my Twitch channel, so definitely stop in and check it out. Because the Stronghold is so much more than just a YouTube channel, and you can find links to all of our other social media outlets in our profile. Because at the end of the day, we're all budget players. And as a community, we're stronger together. So like, comment, subscribe, follow, do all those things to show a little love. It's appreciated more than you know.